Have you ever questioned what it really means to live at the threshold? To seek balance between faith and doubt, between the sacred and the world that mostly isn't paying attention? This is the hidden threshold, a space for the lived, evolving practice, a place where the sacred and the ordinary keep meeting and neither one stays the same. Rooted in pagan and magical tradition, but open to anyone who's ever tried to live what they believe. I'm Veyrin Vale, and I'm glad you're here. Let's begin. There's just something different about a morning that starts with purpose. Nothing flashy or in a way that could be easily spotted. It's more like a steady undercurrent that's there when you've tended to it and quietly slips away when you haven't. On days I take even 5 minutes at my altar, maybe a meditation, pulling a tarot card, a simple offering, or a little ceremony, I move through the morning with a different rhythm. Not necessarily better by any obvious measure, just more grounded. I feel like I'm actually inside my day, instead of always sprinting after it, half-winded. If I'm being completely honest, I haven't managed that kind of start regularly for a while now. It feels worth noting that straight out. It's not meant to be a confession, it's just an acknowledgement of what's true right now. My daily devotion slipped away. A piece of what anchored my mornings, a few minutes at the altar, making space for the gods or the work, hasn't been showing up. What's funny is how the absence creeps in. It's not loud, it just sits at the edge of everything, a low hum of absence. There's something I can't quite name that's gone out of the day, this quiet layer that used to be there. This episode is really just contemplating that. What does daily devotional practice actually give you, especially if your path is pagan or magical and means showing up, even in a small way, to your altar or circle every day? And how do you notice what it's doing until you stop? It's so easy to take it for granted while it's part of your routine. You forget that maybe your steadiness, how you handled a tough week, the gentler way you met the day, links back to those 10 minutes you spent with intention. You only catch the thread after those 10 minutes disappear, and suddenly you feel a little untethered. So this is where we start. Nothing formal or fancy. Just the daily act of showing up and what that means once you've felt both its presence and its absence. My daily devotional practice has never been a fixed thing. Sometimes it meant quiet meditation at dawn, just letting my brain calm down before the rest of the day barges in. Other times, it's all about tarot. I pull a card in the morning and let its question echo through the day. There have been phases when I kept it super simple, just a moment of intentional connection with the gods before real life kicked in. Maybe a small offering, maybe just a few words spoken out loud to Bast, Anubis, or Ma'at, a way to nod at the relationship before the day swallowed me up. And then there have been those chapters of full-on ceremonial work. The Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, the Middle Pillar exercise, 2 methods straight out of the ceremonial magic playbook. These aren't the kind of things you can wing. There's a structure, a precision. You do it because the form itself does some heavy lifting. Try to freestyle it too much, and you don't get the same effect. Has your practice ever changed not because something fell apart, but because you changed? That's what kept happening to me every time my practice shifted gears. It wasn't that the old way stopped working, it's just that I grew into a new season and the practice came along for the ride. Ceremonial work fit when I was deep into that tradition, combining study and practice into this weird, satisfying mix of discipline and devotion. Leaning into meditation or tarot made sense when I needed more breathing room, less structure. Short, personal rituals felt right when what I craved was closeness, not rigor. The way I approach magic and religion is pretty much how I approach any serious bit of learning, like a long, ongoing experiment. Try stuff. Watch what happens. Hang on to the parts that work. Let go of what doesn't without needing to trash what you tried. So yeah, my daily practice changes shape depending on when you look at it. Maybe it seems inconsistent from the outside, but honestly, the details aren't the point. The real thing, the commitment underneath all the forms, that's what matters. Practice is just the way that commitment looks at any given moment. The heart of it is the choice to keep showing up, no matter what form that takes. It's funny how the impact of a daily devotional slips right under your radar. You aren't walking around feeling transformed or suddenly aware of some deep sense of steadiness. Instead, you just find yourself in the flow of a tough meeting, noticing you didn't snap like you usually would, or handling a snag at work with a calm that feels foreign, almost like someone else's emotional toolkit got swapped in with yours. Or maybe, for once, the day doesn't feel like a treadmill that's too fast. That's the magic of it. Devotion doesn't burst in with fireworks. It just steadily reweaves the threads of your ordinary hours, quietly shifting how life feels on the inside. I realize that this kind of practice has a direction to it, almost like momentum. When I do something in the morning, there's a ripple effect that follows me. Maybe I sat at my altar, pulled a card, or said a prayer before the grind started. Whatever happened in that quiet, sacred space stays with me. It's there during the commute, in the hard moments, carrying me past the little irritations. Evening practices have a softer touch, more like prepping tomorrow's foundations. It's strange. Instead of changing how I handle the day I'm living, the night ritual feels like it sneakily sets the tone for tomorrow. The prayer, the ritual, the quiet moments, they're like invisible strings already laid out before the demands even arrive. I sometimes wonder, what's the smallest, dullest thing this practice has changed for me? Honestly, it's patience. Garden variety patience. The ability to pause before reacting to something petty, not getting derailed because someone cut me off or a coworker's email got under my skin. It's subtle. You don't realize you're less irritable until suddenly you're not. And then maybe one day it slips away and you notice what you lost. But the thing that's really worth saying straight out, this isn't just private, inside your own head stuff. The people around you feel it, even if they don't know anything about your rituals or what you did with your 10 quiet minutes at sunrise. Your steadiness leaks out, alters the air in the rooms you walk into. Maybe nobody sees the altar or hears the prayer, but they feel the difference in how you show up. In your tone, your patience, your ability to let friction roll off instead of stick. Your practice shapes you, and then you shape the space around you. The impact stretches way beyond the altar, and that's where it gets real, right in the middle of the everyday. There's a whole style of daily devotional practice that doesn't really look or feel like what most people imagine. No cozy meditation chair, no softly lighting a candle and pulling a tarot card. Instead, think of the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram. This isn't just a sit quietly kind of thing. It's formal, almost like choreography. Precise gestures, memorized words, exact visualizations, and a very clear order for everything. The middle pillar exercise has the same vibe. You're not just waving your hands around, you're moving energy through your body in a specific way, with a method that's been carefully handed down. This kind of practice isn't casual. You can't really do it halfway or make it up as you go. It's the form itself that matters, the structure. If you skip steps or get sloppy, you're simply not doing the thing. You have to show up and do it right. I went through a fairly long spell where these practices were part of my daily life. And honestly, the thing that surprised me, really stuck with me, is how much that tight, technical structure didn't fight against the feeling of devotion. Actually, it brought it out. People sometimes talk as if following a strict routine makes something less heartfelt, but I found the opposite. When a practice demanded my focus, every movement, every word just so, it pulled me completely into the moment. There was no drifting off or thinking about my shopping list. During the LBRP, you don't have space to daydream because every second asks your full attention. The next gesture, the next word, they need you present. That's what devotion really felt like. Not warm fuzzies or some particular emotional vibe. Just total attention. Actually being there, in your body, for every part of the practice. I wonder if you've ever done something that's devotional but also needs you to be precise, like singing in a choir or kneeling in a certain posture or tending an altar a certain way, and realize that it's the care, the technical effort that creates the devotion. It's not emotion. It's that you're all in, holding yourself to the work. This all gets missed, I think, when people imagine that technical or structured practice has nothing to do with devotional practice. Or worse, that only the spontaneous stuff is spiritually real. The truth is, the more technical the ceremonial ritual, the more devotional it becomes. Because the structure holds you and gives you a place to come back to, whether you feel inspired that morning or you're just tired and going through the motions. That's what a formal structure is for in any practice. Not because structure is good for its own sake or because you're supposed to be rigid and stiff. The form is a container. It keeps the practice alive for you on the days when you don't feel like showing up. It carries you for a while until eventually you find that you're the one carrying yourself. Most days, that's what you need. The form is what saves you from distraction, from laziness, even from yourself. And in the middle of all that routine and repetition, in staying with it, you find the devotion. Let's be honest. Sometimes daily practices just fall away. You look at your routines and realize they've changed, and it isn't usually dramatic. It's quieter, almost sneaky, as a result of small shifts. Maybe work hours move around, or the home feels more chaotic, or life slides into a new season that needs more attention. Suddenly, the 10 minutes you always spent at the altar vanishes. Maybe it happens slowly. You skip a day, then two, and before you know it, weeks have slipped by. One morning you stop and wonder, when was the last time I actually did that? That's what's happening to me right now. I'm not lost, nothing's falling apart, and there's no big crisis. I just don't have the daily practice that used to anchor my mornings. The funny thing is, I didn't immediately feel out of balance or anything so dramatic. Instead, something faint tugged at my awareness, a sort of low background hum telling me something was just not quite right, though it took some time to recognize what was missing. You know that moment when you only realize something's gone because suddenly you need it? It's not anything obvious. That's the feeling. The rituals aren't totally gone. The objects still sit where they always sit. The altar is tended now and then, and I fit in bits of the tradition here and there. But the deliberate act, that specific intentional time at the altar each morning, disappeared. In its place, my morning feels different. Not ruined, but missing a certain grounding, a quiet stability I'd taken for granted. The real surprise comes when I look at what that simple daily act was actually doing. I never realized how much steadiness it brought, how it gave me patience and a feeling of beginning the day already rooted instead of racing to catch up with it. When the habit faded away, all those unspoken benefits vanished too. The practice had been shaping my days in ways I never really noticed, and its absence, well, it makes that all the more clear. But here's the thing I want to hold on to. This isn't failure, it's just information. The lapse tells me, hey, this mattered. This helped more than you knew. So when I restart, I don't have to recreate what was before or stick to the same exact ritual. All that matters is choosing to show up again every day in whatever way fits my life right now. That's where the real power always lived, not in perfection, but in the daily act of returning. There's a candle sitting on the altar, and honestly, it hasn't seen a real, intentional flame in quite a while. Sure, sometimes it gets lit, but that's just because the room feels a little dim, or it's what you do out of routine. There's something different about lighting a candle on purpose, right at the start of the day, as if that little ritual sets it all in motion. That sense of purpose, that's what's been missing. I catch myself noticing it every morning. The altar's still set up, everything in its place, the space gets attention, but I haven't been showing up with the same focus, the same I'm here for this energy. That's where things stand right now, and realizing it feels like the point everything's been moving toward. The practice itself has changed a lot over time. Sometimes it's meditation, sometimes tarot, sometimes a little ceremony, sometimes just a quick, simple ritual before the noise of the day kicks in. Every version has felt real in its own season. None of them stuck around forever. The thing that was supposed to stick was the commitment, that small decision each morning to return to it in some way, and that's what slipped. The method never mattered as much as the act of showing up. Whatever my mornings end up looking like when the practice comes back, because it is coming back, just in whatever way fits now, it doesn't have to look like before. No need for complicated rituals or specific cards laid out in a certain way. It just has to happen. Maybe it's the simple act of lighting a candle and really meaning it. Maybe it's drawing a card before the world gets busy. Maybe it's just a quiet word to the gods before everything starts moving fast. This daily work never needed to be perfect. It only ever asked for me to decide to do it. Just once today, and then again the next day. That's always been enough. That's enough right now. If something from today stayed with you, you don't have to figure it out right now. Let it sit and do what it does. That's usually where the good stuff happens anyway. You can also find writing from this same place, shorter pieces on Substack and longer ones on Medium. There are links in the show notes. I'm Veyrin Vale, and this has been The Hidden Threshold, part of the Obscure Meridian family of projects. Thanks for being here.